And first things first, we want to clarify a fake tweet that is going around with the Ksat name attached to it. That fake tweet indicates that a student at Memorial High School has tested positive for coronavirus. This is not true.
This tweet, you may have seen it if you're on Twitter. It came out around 3:03 this afternoon. Again, it is not true. We have not put out a tweet. And as far as we know, there have been no cases of coronavirus at any high school.
Local schools are keeping an eye on the situation. And obviously, if there's anything that happens regarding that, they will let us know and we'll pass it on. But again, this is a fake tweet that went out about 3 o'clock this afternoon with the Ksat official name on it. It looks real. We're here to tell you it is not. It is very fake.
We're going to go on to the part of the news about coronavirus that is true.
51 Grand Princess cruise ship evacuees landed at Joint Base San Antonio Lackland this morning.
Now, these new evacuees come just 2 days after the first group of 98 passengers landed. That brings the total to roughly 400 Americans who have been quarantined at JBSA Lackland since early February.
Around Texas, there are now 23 COVID-19 cases, 7 presumptive positive cases in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 16 cases in the Houston area. Not included in that count are the 11 evacuees who tested positive while under quarantine at JBSA Lackland earlier. Now only 8 evacuees remain at the Texas Center for Infectious Disease. There is still no community spread cases known here in San Antonio.
Now, to avoid adding to the spread of coronavirus, tens of thousands of San Antonio college and university students just got a longer spring break. The plan now is they will return to their studies, taking all of their courses online and off campus. Jesse Degollado spoke with a senior at UTSA who says getting a higher education that way may be easier said than done.
Dylan Gonzalez could accept the fact UTSA was extending spring break and switching to online courses. But then the diehard basketball fan heard NBA games had been suspended.
What I'd be doing normally during that time would just be watching sports, and you can't do that either. So, I mean, you're going to have to go to your second option.
Instead of 2 online courses the communications major already is taking, now he'll have 2 more. He's used to it, but he says it could be a problem for others.
People that don't take online classes at all and need that in-person kind of like teaching method.
The upside, he says, no parking spaces to hunt down, sometimes an hour and a half before class. On the other hand,
you know, if you go to class in person, the teacher will tell you what you have to do and what you need to get done.
So now he says he'll have to check his emails, which many like him rarely do, for online deadlines.
There's a set schedule, and it's not going to be good for procrastinators.
In class, phones are a no-no, but being an avid Twitter user.
And when you're trying to focus for just an hour even, sometimes it can get distracting and you need to look at your phone.
Gonzalez says he was taking the coronavirus outbreak in stride, but now that it's affected his life.
Oh, that's not good. And now I'm worried about it in like a little bit, yeah.
Well, Trinity University will have online courses for the remainder of the academic year, since its students won't be coming back after spring break. And as a result, since its students must live on campus 3 out of the 4 years that they're enrolled, they will be given prorated reimbursements for their room and board and other incidentals. I'm told that this is part of a plan that's been in discussion here at Trinity for weeks. We're live at Trinity University. Jesse Degollado, Ksat 12 News.
Thank you, Jesse. The coronavirus pandemic has hit all major sports with cancellations and suspensions of games and a delay now in the start of Major League Baseball. With more on how this is affecting not just national sports, but local sports as well, let's check in with our Greg Simmons.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is affecting all of sports. And just in the last hour and a half, March Madness has been canceled. The biggest, of course, for San Antonio is the Spurs. And after the NBA suspended the season last night following the COVID-19 positive test of Jazz center Rudy Gobert, now all the teams have been told the suspension will last at least 30 days. That means the Spurs, who are set to play the Denver Nuggets tomorrow in one of the final 19 games of the regular season, will have to wait along with the rest of the league. That's after a second player on the Jazz, Donovan Mitchell, tested positive for the coronavirus. Later today, the G League that affects the Austin Spurs announced that they are suspending operations. The National Hockey League has followed suit canceled, and all major basketball conferences, including the Big 12, have canceled all remaining games. NASCAR announcing they'll hold races without fans. The PGA says the same thing, which will affect the Valero Texas Open schedule for next month here in San Antonio. Locally, UTSA and UIW have suspended all spring sports, and just this afternoon, the UI announced that the remaining schedule of the boys' high school basketball state tournament being played inside the Alamo Dome following this afternoon's 3A semifinals involving the Cole Cougars have been suspended.
I'm kind of confused about what's going to happen, because if we're suspended, that means there should be a game at some point that we can finish and actually have somebody win the state title. But I don't know how long we'd have to wait for that. I don't know what practices would look like. Our kids are committed to other sports after basketball, so I don't know what that looks like, and I haven't heard anything else about it.
All right, the Valero Texas Open issuing this statement late this afternoon. The Valero Texas Open professional competition will continue as scheduled. However, spectators will not be admitted. The tournament will be conducted with essential personnel only. The health and safety of our fans, players, sponsors, volunteers, and community at large is our top priority as we assess all aspects of the tournament's operation going forward. Major League Baseball is calling off spring training games. Will delay the start of their regular season by at least 2 weeks. That includes minor league baseball and our San Antonio Missions. And late today, the NCAA finally made the call, canceling all men's and women's tournament games. March Madness is done. More coming up in sports, Tim.
Greg, it just continues to change very quickly.
Sure does.
Thank you. There are now more than 1,300 coronavirus cases nationwide, and now more things are temporarily closing off as a precaution to limit the spread of the virus. Just hours ago, officials at Disneyland announced they will be closed beginning March 14th through the end of the month. And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo banned all gatherings of 500 or more in the city. This new change is causing Broadway shows to stop performances. They plan to reopen on the week of April 13th. And just north of New York City, the National Guard called into this 1 mile radius containment area in New Rochelle to allow people to allow public spaces to be cleaned.
Over on Capitol Hill, lawmakers now scrambling to find ways to contain this outbreak and mitigate its impact on our wallets. So while the rest of the country is making plans not to group together at large events, Congress will stay on the job together through its planned recess working on it. ABC's Inez de la Catera explains what the federal government is planning to do.
Even as President Trump tries to reassure the nation,
I think it's going to work out very well for everybody.
The COVID-19 pandemic inching closer to the White House. A Brazilian official who met with Trump and the vice president, seen here on the right in this photo from last week, now testing positive for the virus.
We'll find out what happens. I guess they're being tested right now. Let's put it this way, I'm not concerned.
But amid growing public anxiety, Trump announcing drastic new measures to fight the outbreak, calling for a series of stimulus measures to help the economy. Today, trading was halted for the second time this week as financial markets continue to tumble.
The president used the biggest weapon that a president has, that primetime Oval Office speech last night, to try to calm the markets. It does not appear to have worked.
Trump also banning travel from most of Europe to the U.S. for the next 30 days. The U.S. citizens and permanent residents will not be affected. That announcement causing confusion. The European Union responding overnight, slamming the measure as a unilateral decision taken without consultation.
We had to make a decision, and I didn't want to take time, and it takes a long time to make the individual call.
While Congress scrambles to pass a new COVID-19 relief bill, next week's Senate recess now canceled.
Right now, we have to find our common ground, work together to get this done as soon as possible.
And former Vice President Joe Biden releasing his own plan to deal with the outbreak.
And it's critical to mounting an effective national response that will save lives, protect our frontline health workers, slow the spread of the virus. Anyone who needs to be tested based on medical guidance should be tested at no charge.
Inez de la Catera, ABC News, Washington.
Online right now, you can read about the Texas cases, and we have an article listing all of the canceled events and school changes due to COVID-19, and most importantly, what you can do to stop its spread. Just head over to ksat.com.
Turning to other news of the day, police are trying to track down a man who they say stalked his wife this morning, then shot her 3 times as she was driving to work. Bullets also hit an occupied Via bus, but no one was hurt. Take a look at this photo of 53-year-old Javier de Hoyos, now wanted for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Police say after shooting his wife, he drove about 8 miles to the area of West Ashby and St. Anne, where he wrecked and abandoned his vehicle. There, witnesses say he fired even more shots.
Because that guy, he went crazy, like going through that alley, shooting, boom, 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 like that, and over here too.
Before today's shooting, police say de Hoyos already had an outstanding warrant for threatening his wife earlier this month. At last check, she was in the hospital in stable condition. Our Devin Clark will have a full report on this story at 6. In the meantime, de Hoyos is considered armed and dangerous. Anyone who knows where he is urged to call police.
Today, millions of Texas households have received some letters in the mail to respond to the 2020 census. It's a once-in-a-decade effort to count where people live in the U.S. The census serves as a roadmap for how much federal funding communities get for their schools, their road construction, Medicare and Medicaid. All letters should be out by the end of the month. In mid-May, census takers will begin door knocking on homes that have not yet responded. This is the first year you can complete the census online, along with the usual by mail or phone method. The novel coronavirus crisis is offering a new reality for many Americans and for presidential candidates as well. The pandemic now reaching deep into the race for president. Whitney Wild is in Washington to explain how the pandemic may impact this year's election.
Don't expect political rallies like this anytime soon. Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and President Trump are all canceling or postponing events because of the novel coronavirus.
We need a little separation until such time as this goes away. I don't want people dying. That's what I'm all about.
The political world is quickly attempting to adapt to the global pandemic.
And we'll continue to assess and adjust how we conduct our campaign as we move forward, and find new ways to share our message with the public while putting health and safety of the American people first.
Sunday's Democratic debate will also look different. There will be no crowd, as in last debates, and the event moved from Arizona to a studio in Washington, D.C. States preparing to hold elections next week are also forced to act now.
I think taking proactive measures will help us flatten the curve of this.
Election workers wear gloves as voting machines are deep cleaned. Early voting is encouraged, and some election sites are being moved.
I ordered all 88 counties to relocate any polling locations from senior residential facilities to alternate locations. Obviously, that's a big step, and it requires a lot of work.
The measures aimed at keeping the voting population safe.
If there ever was a time in the modern history of our country when we are all in this together, this is that moment.
In Washington, I'm Whitney Wild.